Oh, and it's like a whole week has passed, Rob.
Oh, yes, amazing. Oh, what a Christmas time I had. Amazing. Makes so much food. I'm stuffed.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, all the presents. In case you can't tell from our sarcastic tone, we're recording this mere moments after the episode you heard last week. And this is kind of a bonus episode we're throwing in there. This is going to be, and I don't know if this is going to become a yearly thing. It could do. We haven't quite hit our 1 year anniversary yet. It was about this time last year, I think, we were discussing Brexit on How Many Things, and that's what kind of spawned this idea of another podcast with Rob. So I think we're going to do our predictions for 2019, and they're going to probably be wildly inaccurate. But you'll be able to look back in a year and tell us how wrong we were. So do you want to lead on that, Rob?
Yeah, sure. I love getting things wrong. So let's start with, well, the one we were always going to start with, I guess, Brexit. So
Brexit? Madness.
I know.
What is this?
What is Brexit? Well, Brexit is a small, I know you talk about it for ages, but I guess 2019 is important because it is the year of
Brexit.
Exactly.
Like, literally.
That's when it's going to happen. Is it going to happen at all? And if it does, what's it going to be like? So, my prediction for Brexit, based on my feelings at the moment, I think the most likely course that we follow is that Article 50 will not be triggered on time and that we will have an extension to it. That's my honest opinion. It seems a bit the far way off and might be the one that upsets the most people with Brexiteers, but I just don't think at this moment in time we can say that we are ready to go ahead with it, particularly with a deal that Parliament will pass. I think the next most likely scenario is that Theresa May's deal that was presented in the end of December gets passed mid-January with the threat of no deal being enough for some in the Labour Party and some in the Conservative Party to support it. What's your opinion on Brexit? Where do you think that we'll go in the next year?
So I'm worried about a no deal. I like to think that we can pull something out at the very end. We know that, we have seen some concessions we didn't expect from the EU because they really don't want us to have a no deal because it's also bad for them. It's not as bad for them as it is for us, and that's definitely true. But it doesn't help things for them, and I think there is a benefit to them to be shown to be compassionate and good and helpful as much as can be reasonable, while we kind of do stupid stuff ourselves. Like, I suppose that the outcome the EU wants, right, is they still want to be able to have reasonable trade with us and not, perfectly, they don't want us to leave. But if we do leave, they want us to still have pretty close ties and they want it to be okay, but they don't want it to be so okay that other countries get the idea in their head that they could just leave. And there need to be some negative consequences, but overall, they don't really want us to leave. And we know that they have said, oh, well, actually, you could probably reverse Article 50. And we've also had that, the legal advice in the UK on it. So a lot of sighing here from me on Brexit.
Yeah.
No deal is my concern, but I think something will happen, whether it is Theresa May's deal or some kind of stopgap deal, or as you say, pushing the ball out of the court for another 6 months, whatever it takes. The fact that we got so close to having a deal, even if it doesn't make everyone happy, shows that when there is an actual deadline, something will happen, even if it doesn't seem like much has been going on for 2 years. And I think there probably is more going on in the background, and maybe the government could have handled it better, kind of saying, oh, look, we're talking about this right now. But they kept it very close to their chests, and they did pull out a deal in the end. So, yeah, I think I'm a bit unsure on exactly what's going to happen. But I think, I think something definitely will happen. I feel, much as I'd love it to be revoked, Article 50 to be revoked, I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're going to get some kind of halfway house between. It's going to be lie somewhere between the deal being pushed back a few more months and what Theresa May presented at the end of November. So it's going to be somewhere in that range. So I'm going to go with saying it is a slightly modified deal with maybe a few more concessions from the EU that Theresa May manages to come back with and go, right, we've got to get this through, and then we get it through, but maybe not before March.
That's good. I mean, I like your cast iron guarantee that something will happen. I think we can
something
guarantee
will
that
happen.
to our listeners.
There will also be weather. I promise you weather.
Yes. So, I think I'm done with Brexit. Well, just in general. But
yeah, we're done.
conversation
No
as
more
well.
Brexit. So we've done Brexit. Then I suppose we have to work our way through the parties. So Conservative Party.
Yeah, I mean it's tied to Brexit as well, and what will happen here. I think the likelihood is that Theresa May will remain leader for the entirety of 2019. A bold prediction.
Ooh.
I know.
I mean, she has said she has to go, so.
Yes, but she's only going to go before the next election, and the next election, I think, will be in 2022.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that based on what we said in the last episode, where the Conservatives have power, however tenuous it may be, that they're in power, so why would they give it up?
Yes, and in the two scenarios we've just talked about with Brexit, either that a deal goes ahead or that Article 50 is extended, I don't think anybody else in the Conservative Party will want to come to the fore to either negotiate a new Brexit deal or take responsibility in another way. So yeah, I think Theresa May will remain in charge. You'll still get a lot of infighting. I don't think that we will have a repeat of the Conservative no confidence vote, like almost a year to the day of when it was last triggered. I don't think next December we're going to be having the same conversation. If we did, if that was to happen, that would certainly be a crisis in the Conservative Party, because that would suggest that they're just trying to vote in somebody other than Theresa May every year. It would come to the annual leadership election for the Conservatives, which would be farcical. So yes, I think the Conservatives will be all right. They'll continue under Theresa May. However, whatever happens with Brexit, I think if a no-deal Brexit goes ahead, then that's when we see a real problem for the Conservative Party, at least in the terms of polling numbers. If it starts to affect real families in a big way, and the financial consequences are dire, then that's when we might see the Conservative poll advantage start slipping an awful lot more.
Here's hope we don't see that.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd very much like things to not change, but some things are going to change. God damn it. I think that's the level of swearing we allow on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you got any thoughts on the Conservative Party and where they may go?
So I think, I don't think, as you say, I don't think they're going to try and get rid of. So firstly, Theresa May has a year clock from when the vote of no confidence happened before they can do a vote of no confidence again.
Mm.
So I mean, she's safe for somewhere around 350 days at this point. So that being said, I think there is the possibility that someone could convince her to leave and step down at an opportune moment. I think very much she needs to be seen to be the person through Brexit, because when everyone starts complaining about it, if the Conservative Party want to have a chance of winning the next election, they need to be like, oh, it was all Theresa May's fault. Theresa May will have retired at that point and presumably very, very happy with the fact she doesn't have to deal with all this anymore. So like they basically need to like pass that buck to make headway in the next election. I as you say, I think they will lose the next election in 2020. I would assume, as we say, things will swing back towards Labour after what will have been about 13 years. Yeah, I think she'll definitely be there until sometime after Brexit. The question is, does she go this year? And so that's, does she step down? So she said she's going to go before the next general election. That gives her a few years. I suppose it's very much a question of where does that lie? And we've talked, or previously in the last episode, we talked about how Corbyn, that there was a period where Corbyn was basically being unfairly treated by the media, and he didn't like have the problems that he's had now that he's been sat there for a while. So maybe like the optimum time to build up your position as an opposition leader for a vote is probably a year and a bit. Not enough for real skeletons to come out of the closet, enough to be new and interesting. So I feel like, yeah, Theresa May will stay because they can still, like, there's still going to be some stuff going wrong with Brexit, stuff that they can essentially pin on her when she's gone. So, so that the party can survive. And then but you need to have at least a year probably of being leader of the party. You don't want to be like just thrown out there a month before the general election. You need that time to campaign and build up your image as a person. So I imagine she will make it through 2019. And sometime in 2020, maybe end of 2020, they would switch leader in the lead up to in the next general election. So yeah, that's her Conservative Party. They always feel like they're very close to breaking apart at the moment. That's why we had Brexit in the first place, so that they could, shut up that side of the party who are going a bit UKIP. I mean, I'd love to see the Conservative Party split in two and that massively change the whole dynamic and things change, but I just don't think it's going to happen. They're too savvy for that as a group, no matter what as you say, Rees-Mogg's kind of fading out of the limelight now. He's probably not going to be the next leader. he said he won't be anyway. He doesn't have that. He doesn't want to do it. I mean, I know you can't really trust what a politician says from week to week, but I believe like he's got his way essentially for now, and so probably isn't going to try and run for leader. So yeah, I think the Conservative Party will stay together. We'll see a bit more infighting, but it'll probably be less as they get on the duties of dealing with Brexit. There'll be some backbenchers making a ruckus as always, but I don't think it's going to be really normal, essentially.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And so then on to the Labour Party. What are your thoughts on Labour?
So Labour have a lot of challenges over the next year. I think the biggest one is going to be the call for a second referendum or people's vote.
Yeah,
that'll be one of the things that is Corbyn willing to listen to the party members and fully support that, or is he going to ignore it? The next challenge is what happens if Brexit is so. So a lot of it again hinges on Brexit and what happens with that. So one scenario, you've got Article 50 is extended, then I think we're almost in the same position as we are now. The Labour Party will continue to say, keep extending Article 50 until us, the Labour Party, get in charge, then we'll negotiate a better Brexit deal. That's Jeremy Corbyn's line at the moment, and I think he'd continue to follow that one if that was the case. If Theresa May's deal passes and goes through, then the Labour Party is faced with quite a unique challenge of spinning that as a bad deal, but I'm not quite sure they would have the power to go back to the EU and renegotiate it. The EU would come back and say, we did the deal with your government, we consider this matter closed. So then I imagine the Labour Party would try and pick weaknesses in the deal and prepare themselves for 2022. And then the election might be a quite close run thing if a softer Brexit is proved to be less disastrous than was predicted or less disastrous than some of the Labour Party predicted. If it's a no deal, then I think the Labour Party will be the party in charge come the next election. I think it's that simple. Whoever would be responsible for no deal would bear the public, the backlash from it. I also think, just in terms of the wider Labour Party, I've mentioned that Sadiq Khan is running for re-election as Mayor of London. I believe he'll win that again quite easily. I think Labour will probably continue to strengthen its support in metropolitan areas. That's where Corbyn's had the most success in getting sort of this groundswell of support. I'd like to see the Labour Party try and broaden its church a little bit and focus on those key swing seats in Birmingham, in the Midlands, also up north, the kind of ones it would need to take to win a majority in Parliament. We keep talking about how well Corbyn did in 2017. He was able to reduce the Conservatives' majority, but he also didn't win and didn't make the gain. He often increased his vote share in places that already voted for Labour. The Labour Party needs to turn its focus to those swing constituencies, those ones that are on the fence, the ones that, if Brexit goes badly, then and you've got somebody who used to vote Conservative in the past, they'll want to see Labour as a feasible alternative for government with Jeremy Corbyn in charge, and they've got to start making a few concessions to rural constituencies to be able to do that. That's my summary for Labour. I know it sounds a bit like more of the same or very conditional on what happens with Brexit, but it's theirs to lose. I think it's theirs to mess up rather than the stuff they've got to gain. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Like we would expect Labour to win 2022 general election if nothing disastrous happens. It's the status quo after 13 years. That sounds wrong. So we expect the status quo to change after 13 years. Essentially, one government in power.
Yeah.
It would be surprising to me if they lost it, but there's still chance. There's everything to play for, as they say in sports. I agree with most of what you said. I don't disagree with anything. I just want to kind of add on that I feel like, following on from the conversation in the last episode, Corbyn's position could become untenable before the next general election, perhaps, depending on how everything goes. I suppose I'm being very vague there, but I think there is definitely a situation in which he could be he's proven that he can win elections, do well in elections, and all of that, but there's various baggage going on now because he's been around for some time. So maybe there is a benefit to them having a fresh face going into the next election, in which case, similar to Theresa May, they would want to get rid of Corbyn with about a year and a half to go, maybe a bit longer because they're in opposition, so they can probably sit around for a bit longer. And as you said, in the last episode, well, who would take that spot and how would it work? They would need Corbyn's blessing so that they don't lose the Corbyn supporters. But maybe it could be someone who's a bit more central within the party, but still following, like, it should be clear to them that the left-wing policies that Corbyn was for did well in the last election. And presumably after a few more years of Conservatives saying, oh, it's not really austerity, but it still kind of is. After a few more years of that, Labour should be in a very good position to say, look, we're going to come in with all these left-wing policies, we're going to fix all your problems, and here's our new leader who Corbyn says is okay. And as you suggested, it could be Keir Starmer or it could be someone else. But yeah, someone a bit charismatic, a bit more central in the party, hasn't got any egg on his face or any particular bad blood with other people. And Corbyn says, yeah, they're okay by me, as he leaves. Could be what we could see. Will that happen in the next year? Probably not, would be my suggestion, unless it goes really badly for Corbyn. I think we're just more likely to see, we're going to see more criticism of Corbyn pretty much whatever he does, in a similar vein to what Theresa May is going to face, because there will be pro-Brexit Labour supporters who will be annoyed if he goes a bit soft on whatever happens, and there will be pro-Remain supporters of Corbyn who will be annoyed if he's very all in on the Brexit side of things. And we know that he's kind of vaguely pro-Brexit, I think, is the general, like, he's not super pro-EU, I suppose, is probably a better way of putting it. Like, I don't know if we are certain that he would vote for Brexit, but I think there's a general feeling that he's, like, because they didn't really make their situation plain at any point for a long time, I think there's a general assumption that Corbyn is okay with Brexit happening, but he wants it on his terms. So that can annoy people both ways in the same way anything to do with Brexit can.
Yeah, I think to add to that point slightly, the Brexit referendum campaign was notable for the absence of Corbyn in the media. And that was maybe it's a little frustrating as a self-confessed Remainer like I am, to look back and think of the public support that Corbyn was able to get during the 2017 general election. If he was able to harness a fraction of that support, of that public goodwill for Remain, then Remain may have won, because the Leave side seemed to have all the charismatic figures, and Corbyn seemed to sit quietly on the sidelines and have relatively little media coverage compared to the other figures. If a second vote went ahead, the People's Vote, and Labour was on the side of Remain then, I think it would be really interesting to see how viscerally Corbyn campaigns for that, where he sits, or if he does the same tactic as last time. I think if he was to sit by the sidelines, that again might damage his public image amongst his supporters or those within the Labour Party who certainly don't want Brexit to happen in its current form. Yeah.
So final prediction. We've waffled a bit on there. Our final prediction. What do we think is going to go on in the US with Trump? We've been very UK focused with lots of Brexit stuff happening, but I mean, we've still been keeping our eye out on the news over there. Trump is now in a position where he doesn't have full control of the two houses of the US Congress. So where does that put him, and what do we think is going to happen? Is he going to build a wall?
I don't think he's going to build a wall. I think in 2019 you are going to see a more frustrated, unhappy Trump, if that's even possible. He's cut quite an isolated figure in government anyway, and that's when his party controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and now has a 5-4 advantage in terms of conservative judges on the Supreme Court. The fact that he's not going to be able to pass his policies are likely to make him lash out more on Twitter, pass more executive orders. So these are the things that he was signing, the big pieces of paper. Their proclamations basically say, okay, I think that there should be some examples of ones he's done already was like, I don't think there should be any transgender people in the military. That was one of his proclamations. Those sort of proclamations are good to say, I'm a president and I'm doing something about this, but also they are really easy to overturn. So most of the executive orders Obama did, Trump just set about undoing them within his first 100 days in office, because nobody has to vote on undoing them. You can just, if you're president, you can just undo them. Secondly, that transgender ban is actually a good one to look at, because that's an executive order that was never put into force by any organisation because there's doubts about if it's even constitutional, and because it was objected by so many local courts at the time, nobody's dared to put it in place. So again, that frustrates Trump's vision of what should happen and what should go on there. So legislatively and Trump's agenda-wise, I think he's going to be far more frustrated than he was in his first 2 years. And then on the other side, you've got the Mueller investigation and the investigation into the Trump Foundation that's also bubbling on in the background. Now that we have a Democrat-controlled House, it makes the prospect of impeachment more likely. But the fact that they didn't win the Senate probably means that an impeachment process in the next 2 years wouldn't be successful. That's if it was a normal impeachment, and I sort of like, you can't see me using the bunny ears, but I'm using bunny ears here, as in sort of like the Bill Clinton attempt at impeachment was on a moral ground issue, something that wasn't as cut and dry as something like Watergate, where it was clear that Nixon had been involved in something criminal. I think that was the only impeachment that they thought may have gone ahead, but it never was allowed to get that far because Nixon resigned before it could. If Mueller was to uncover solid evidence of Russian interference, that was there was the collusion between Trump and the Russians, I think that would be the kind of thing that would lead to an impeachment trial, or maybe this Clinton Foundation stuff. Not the Clinton Foundation. Let me say that the Trump Foundation stuff that's come out. If there were illegal moves through those charities, then again that could be a scandal of proportions that may bring down the Trump White House. However, I think that's unlikely, and all you will see is quite an isolated, grumpy Trump losing staff left, right, and centre, as he did this year, and probably things looking worse for him going into 2020 and his election campaign, which will be happening in 2 years' time. We've all got that to look forward to.
Oh, good. I mean, hopefully we do. Hopefully he loses that election. I mean, I'm not a US voter, so I can easily nail my colours to the mast, but I think most people do. So, I mean, as you say, Trump is now in a position where he doesn't have full control of government. It's going to be harder for him to get things through, and we've seen what that's like. Luckily, I think the way the US system is set up is that a frustrated president, while he may make a lot of noise on Twitter and get a lot of coverage and a lot of views, it seems like the system is working and he's limited in doing anything really drastic. I mean, as long as he doesn't go and declare war on someone, we should be okay. I think the Mueller investigation is the big thing to watch. I have been reading a lot of that stuff with interest, but I suspect with the way everything is set up now, unless, as you say, they get really, this is absolute obvious evidence that Trump has done this, I get the feeling it won't be Nixon, it will be Clinton. Because as we know, impeachment proceedings were put against him over the Monica Lewinsky scandal, and he survived that. And I feel that's what would probably happen if there's no hard evidence of collusion from the FBI investigation. I think what will happen is he will have an impeachment vote put against him from the House of Representatives, and then it will go up to the Senate, and it won't go through. That would be my assumption there, which I know a lot of people are probably very sad about, but I think that's what's going to happen. And then, is he going to build a wall? No, I think that's probably a fair statement to say. The Senate's against that, and the House are against that, I think, overall. Then what else is there for Trump to do, really? He's got to start campaigning again. I think he's going to give a load more silly speeches that rile people up online. There's not a big vote for him next year. I just think, as you say, he's going to struggle to get things. Not much is going to happen. And it's still going to take up all of US news in the way that Brexit takes up all of UK news. So, yeah.
Happy 2019.
Plus c'est change, as the French say. I hope you enjoyed our predictions for 2019. We'll probably have to reflect on them next year at the same time and see how wrong we got it before we make other wildly ridiculous predictions for the year after. And also, if you like listening to Rob's voice and Rob's opinions on things, make sure to check out our episode of Hat and Many Things that's coming out shortly, which will involve Rob telling me why sports ball is so good. Sports ball, way, kick it. I believe there's someone called Messi. I mean, we'll find out.
Gonna get real messy, don't you worry.
Yeah, it's been good. I will probably be posting this from Rob's lounge, actually, because we're going to be seeing each other over New Year. So, this will go up just in time for the new year. And here's to a 2019. Here's to Brexit not crippling the economy. And here's to you. I mean, if you do get worried, I know this going out on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day means that you're likely to be have a glass of alcohol in hand, or be recovering from having had a glass of alcohol in hand. But if ever it gets too much, just have a nice sit down, a nice cup of tea, and wait for this to all blow over. And with that, it's good night from me.
And it's a good night from him.
Bye.
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 Bye.